So yeah, things are changing, and I'm pretty excited about that. But we need to do a lot more to,
Exactly.
to propel this excitement, this buzz, and this energy which is on the ground to propel it.
There are thousands of glamorous cases where startups' growth and achievement of objective were accelerated by fundraising. There are likewise thousands of fascinating cases where bootstrap startups founders achieve unicorn status getting financed by no one other but their parents. For every one of these success stories, whether by bootstrapped or VC funded businesses, there are other cases that ended up failure related outcomes if not shut down completely. Hello and welcome to the Honest Talk by Freak Folks. I'm Harsh Pandey. For this particular session, we have with us very special guest today, Mr. Saikat Basu sir. He's the founder of BGs and Thrive, serial entrepreneur, business and investment consultant. So first of all, sir, I welcome you to in this session. Thank you so much for joining and actually agreeing to share your thoughts with us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, sir. It's our pleasure too. So, moving to the topic of today's session, which we have chosen is bootstrapping versus venture capital, finding what is right for your business. Here's an age old question: should you bootstrap your company or try and raise funding? Now, whether you accept funding from external investors will have a huge impact how you structure and run your company. So, this is a crucial decision that's not to be made lightly. So, my very first request to you is to please explain to our viewers the various factors need to be considered while deciding between bootstrapping versus funding. Also, weigh up the pros and cons of each options and give your take on how bootstrapping and fundraising affects your company from a financial viewpoint.
Yeah. This is like a question which has been around forever since, since people started uh, thinking about raising finances from external sources. Um, my take on this is that it all depends on your networking, because that's my experience told me. If you do not have that kind of networking, which you need to have, for example, to raise finances from external sources, then you don't have any other option than bootstrapping, to be honest. And it may sound pretty glamorous, as you said, and all those things, or unicorns and all those things, but the reality is extremely different. So, unicorns are, if you look carefully, the the people who are behind, who have initiated, or who are actually orchestrating the entire thing or managing the entire thing, they have a massive experience and network. Otherwise, nobody will just give you, like, a few $100 million or $1 billion just like that, just because. Do you think, or even some people think, that the idea is great because uh, investing in somebody else's idea needs a lot of trust? And that's, even if you think that the idea is great, but implementation and all those things come into play. So that's number one. That's the first point. That, I mean, if you don't have the networking which you need to have, there won't be any trust factor at all. All over the world, it's not just in India, all over the world, even in the Western world, in North America, wherever, uh, venture capital, they say that you can send your briefs or teasers, whatever, to them, but they actually invest. And I'm talking from practical experience. I've talked to a lot of venture capitals all over, and private equities as well. And they actually invest in companies which are run by people they know directly or indirectly. They will never invest in something which is totally, they don't have any reference point to hold on to or to fall back on, if you know what I mean. So that's the first point. So bootstrapping is the first thing. The second thing is that once you have that, and then you can get into, like, you can get into, perhaps the incubation centers sometimes help, but then again, it's not possible to get every single idea uh, to put them on board to an incubation center like, Y Combinator or other big incubation centers around the world, because they don't have that kind of uh, scale or bandwidth to accommodate so many startups. Um, so the bootstrapping is the first thing. Now, it doesn't have to be just your money, or it can be from your private sources. Again, networking comes into play. It can be from your parents, family, friends, whoever, because they trust you. So
Yes.
it all comes down, it all boils down to that factor. That because it just seems, just ask yourself this question. Somebody comes to you, just flip the roles, let's say, and tells you that, hey, I got a great idea. Would you like to invest, like, $1 million a year? And what would be your response? Straight away, will you, like, take out $1 million and give that amount to them? That's, like, the
Yes.
answer is the answer to your question. Um, so the second part, when it comes to after bootstrapping, after you have got some track record, right, some sort of track record, then when this can see that it is actually physically the startup is working, then there are more and more people, like, in those uh, different types of apps, like not just seed capital, but I'm talking about series A, B, C, or one, two, three, whatever they call them. Uh, then people can get interested. They can get excited once you can get some media attraction, social media attraction, or some attention as well. Then a lot of interest. You have to grow that, like, it's not just the idea, but also the uh, implementation, the real thing, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And you also need to get people to talk about it so that they can say that there is some buzz, create some buzz around that product or idea or the company of yours, the startup of yours, and then, like, you might get some interest, and which can lead to investments in the future.
Indeed, sir. I think you have actually very beautifully explained the whole process and explained the very well importance of networking. And this is something I'm sure we need to actually learn. And the people, those who are watching this session, they are also going to understand these things. So my next question to you is actually, when people invest in your company, they also give their expertise. So do you believe that the companies that have visionaries who carry large section of the organization along with them often succeed in driving through change better than companies that are bureaucratic or whose organizational arteries have become clogged due to the inertia or slowness to adapt to the marketplace?
Yeah, it depends on the. There's quite a few. There's not a straight answer to that, because there are companies and companies. Let's say. So, for example, the first part is that obviously everybody wants to get things done faster and in a more effective way. Um, and the expertise people bring in and all those things. So startup is obviously in that way is an exciting place because things get done faster. You don't have to wait for, like, days and weeks uh, to get some sort of decisions from the top management, or like, or some shareholders meetings or whatever, depending on how they are running what they have in their company structure and how they are running it. That's why it's an exciting place. But at the same time, um, in the when the company grows and it becomes, like, I always use this kind of thing, this analogy, if you will, that the startups are like cheetahs, whereas these once they become bigger and bigger, and they become like they get metamorphosed to hippos because they can't move anymore. They can't run that fast because of these checks and balances they have to put in place. And the more checks and balances, like once they have their IPOs or whatever, and they float the company properly, then they have to abide by the, for example, in India, SEBI, in the US, SEC, Securities and Exchange Commissions, all those things. So for that, they need to every single decision they make may have uh, different types of consequences, and that's why they have to be kind of vetted by all these internal audits and all these different departments, legal departments and financial departments, and all those whoever runs these big companies. They know that that that's the inevitability. That's that's you cannot just run away from them because you have those. You have to have those apparatus in place. Um, Having said that, there are different types of. Um, they have different types of try to different types of try to engage or um, implement different types of management styles so that the decisions get um, done faster. The flow of information is faster, uh, but still, it's always a kind of an like a Herculean task, if you ask me, to get into that. I mean, most people who are like who have these big, or if the companies become too big in the sense that they are too big to fail, then they have um, these steps and these kind of let's say uh, these kind of actions they need to take in order to safeguard and protect their interests, which in case slow down their decision making process, unfortunately. And that's the kind of trade off they have to live with. I mean, you can't do the way our legal framework or our compliances work nowadays all over the world. It's pretty it's not it's pretty challenging
Right.
to have the decisions faster, and at the same time they gotta abide by all types of compliances and all types of uh, the let's say the uh, legal framework in place. Um, that's a challenge, and uh, I don't think that it's about the company as such. It's more about our society. It's a larger question because if we want to, it's like whether we want uh, we got to strike a balance somewhere. We cannot get into a society where we have that kind of regime where uh, that the government or the regulatory authorities, they just crack down on every single thing so that you get stifled or suffocated. And on the other hand, it cannot be like wild west either. So there has to be a balance somewhere, and in that kind of, I mean, it's very difficult to trade, trade that fine path, and the governments quite often um, do one thing or the other. Like from one extreme, they just jump to the other extreme, which in case hinders development. So it's not just a company thing, actually, if you ask me. It's a much wider, larger question which we need to address as a society.
Right.
And when the industry leaders or the trade bodies they meet the government authorities or the regulatory bodies, they need to take up these concerns and come back with a solution which we call, as cliched as it may sound, a win-win for everybody.
Exactly. Sir, and actually, there's one more thing we need to understand, and I would be happy if you means if you will entertain this question as well. We have seen as fund flow to Indian startups continued at a rapid pace, with more and more new businesses reaching the $1 billion valuation. So, do you think the Indian startups are key to navigating disruption?
Yeah, I mean, India is right now at a, like, it's kind of in a, it's right now in a place where um, everything is almost set. It's like, kind of the, almost about to, everything is about to be launched or kickstarted or explode. Because I know, because I have been communicating with the Indian authorities as well. And I might say that the present dispensation, they have been extremely fortunate and understand that the the atmosphere, the ecosystem for startups, they need to do more, and they have been. To be honest, they have been doing a lot more to facilitate that the 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 systems, the different types of, let's say, cut down on. They did cut down on the red tapes and all those things, uh, but still there is more work. Need like more work needs to be done. It's a huge country and extremely diverse, so that and also there are different political dispensations. So that's also, we need to understand that not each and every state is under. It's not like China or like that you can get one with one snap of a finger things get done, because there are checks and balances everywhere, right? So uh, I know I had my share of red tapes, and I have seen that how things changed over the last few years. But yeah, but there is a lot of energy among the Indian youth right now, particularly when it comes to the startups, because it's not something actually unheard of in India. We are just using the word startups now, but innovation has been there. It's just that they did not manage to see the light of the day, if you know what I mean, because they did not know how to get that, like the word which I used right at the start of our conversation, networking. They didn't know who to talk to. They had the idea. I mean, I have come across even in like ingenious kind of ideas or even prototypes, if you will, in different, uh, like they call them uh, semi-urban areas across the country, even in villages, but those kids or teenagers sometimes or young adults, uh, they didn't know. I mean, sometimes somebody put it on LinkedIn and
Actually, this
people
is
like
correct.
Anand
Yes.
Mahindra said that okay, we would like to do that, but that's like one or two here and there, But there are hundreds of them, or maybe thousands of them. I don't know, uh, who are yet to be discovered. uh, so this has been there for ages. It's not like for millennia, if you like. But now is the time to actually nurture, nourish, and for that, I think we need a lot of incubation centers,
Yes.
proper incubation centers, because a lot of universities actually approached me about incubation centers. I said, what, like what you're getting into. I said, yeah, we will just put some, like get a room and put some people there. And I said, incubation center is not just getting a room and put some computers there and you think that it will be done.
Exactly.
They, because they don't know how to go about it. And I think that there are some like I was in touch with Startup India, to be honest, uh, and I met some people sometime. It was like I think a few years ago, 5 years ago, in Vigyan Bhavan in Delhi, which actually I was pretty stunned when I was there because it looked the office. It comes directly under the PMO, Invest India and Startup India, and they uh, it looks like pretty swanky and doesn't look like a typical government office, which we have in our mind as Indian government offices should be. So yeah, things are changing, and I'm pretty excited about that. But we need to do a lot more to,
Exactly.
like to propel this excitement, this buzz, and this energy which is on the ground to propel it to the sky, right? So we need to have provide them, facilitate that launching pad, and for that, it's not just the government, to be honest, the industry, the business people, the business leaders, people like us, everybody needs to chip in to like to find out like in our way that okay, I know the area. I mean, I'm doing some work in West Bengal in Purulia district with some kids, and we are not just educating but also trying to put some entrepreneurial ideas to them that how in farming in agriculture, which is one of the biggest innovation areas in the world right now, and India has a massive potential there.
I think you have discussed some of the very concrete reasons, and actually, this is a very positive change. Now things are getting better. Now people are starting actually these things entering into these things, and people started discussing about things. So these all are a very positive change. And sir, I can say there's a lot more to learn from you, but today I don't want to take too much of your time. So moving to my last question of this session, actually we have seen the business world changes dramatically over the last few decades, and now we now live in a connected society where change can be fast-paced, constant, and unpredictable. Rapid advance in the technology have created an environment where the internet, smartphone, and social media are ubiquitous, and the 2008 global financial crisis and this 2020-2019 pandemic has increased the sense of turbulence, danger, and unpredictability in the certain areas. Sir, in your opinion, what are the critical skills required to excel in this fast-paced changing world?
I would say a couple of things, not many.
Okay.
The most important is uh, your uh, your ability to adapt. If you don't adapt to the changing world and the changing dynamics on the market, um, at some point of time you will perish because the the demand, the want, the need, all these things are changing, and as you pointed out, and rightly so, at a brisk pace. So yeah, so you need to adapt, like any other, like if we say, for example, even in our uh, society, even in our uh, like in the wider world, everywhere, people or organisms need to adapt. So everybody, like just now, for example, in this COVID situation for the last 2 years, a lot of businesses shut down because they couldn't adapt.
Yes, right.
Like for example, I mean, I can give you an example. I have seen a couple of them from my personal experience. People I knew or know, still know. Some of them, like in the, let's say, in the gastronomy or sector or the restaurant sector, the food service. There, if they did not have the home delivery system, uh, they just would perish because people are not going to restaurants as often or as let's say as frequently as they used to before, right? So, and most of them were kind of they ordered food at home, and that's why if you didn't have that, then on the other hand, people who did or who even invested more, because I know one of those restaurant owners, he invested more. He even bought a couple more cars to deliver because he found out that this is the way cut down on the expenses, uh, because you don't need that many waiters, let's say, but you need to have drivers, because and more cars to deliver, and at the same time you are also, like, associated with those food aggregators, like, Zomato, Swiggy, as they are in India. So so that's just an example, a simple example to show what adaptability can give
Okay.
you. So that's the most important thing, I think, people or business owners, or like, any um, startup founders or entrepreneurs, innovators, whoever they are, they need to adapt to the changing situation. And if they do, then they will succeed. That's
Right.
number one. And number two, grab the opportunities. Keep your eyes and ears open all the time, and try to understand how and where the opportunities may arise
Yes.
because of some, uh, because of some consequences in different parts of the world,
Exactly.
right? So that's another opportunity. That's another thing I would say. So I think these two things: adaptability and uh,
Opportunity.
looking to uh, looking to cash on, when you have when the opportunities come knocking on your door.
This is really a very great advice, and I'm sure the people those who are watching this session, they are also going to find us insightful and meaningful. And thank you so much, sir, for joining and giving your important time. It was a kind of a healthy conversation with you over the topic, and we look forward to conduct more such session with you in future. Again, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry about the connectivity and all those things. I
That's
don't know what happened. So
that's okay.
something just snapped or something. I don't know. So
That's
yeah,
that's
but yeah,
completely
we'll do that. We'll do that, more of that in the future.
sure,
Thanks,
sure,
Harsh,
definitely.
for inviting me.
Sure, sir. We will definitely do more. Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure. Bye, sir.
Yeah, same here. Take care.
Bye,
And
sir.
on the ground is where I stand. Never give up, that was always the plan. It's so cold. Yeah.